students before, the proportion was like even 30 or 40 minutes after the hour, and they're not realizing that they only have until the hour's up. So I am telling them, like, I don't know, um, should we just like go ahead and start working with them, or I mean,
My favorite question.
mm,
So here's the problem. You know, a lot of students, when they stop at the desk, come back up. Every semester we have turnover at the upper level. So we have a lot of veterans who've been here for a while, and we have brand spanking new students who are just starting out. And depending on whether you work and whatever, training can be hard in a lot of cases. But for the most part, everyone at the desk lets the students know, listen, you come in at this time, you have up until 3 o'clock. You know, you've got 40 minutes left in the hour, right? They show up for 15 minutes. You've got 15 minutes left in the hour. When they come to you somewhere along the line, you know, it's like, oh, no, they never told me that, right? So 90% of the time they're lying to you. The other 10% of the time, it's, oh, I only need 15 minutes for the tutor, because they assume that if they don't say that, there is no appointment available for them, and they won't be able to see someone. When they sit down with you, they can crowbar more time out of you, and so forth, right? So in a lot of cases, it's really them, it's on them, it's not anywhere else. There's nowhere in the process, in the chain, that, you know, there's miscommunication. It's just them telling you whatever. Where that's concerned, you let them know immediately. And the key to beginning any session is setting healthy expectations, no matter what. And you just sit down and be like, what are you working on? All right, just so you know, we only have about 15 minutes, you know, like, and then the hour's up. And I don't know if it's a good idea for us to start right now, because keep in mind, this counts as an appointment. The Learning Center doesn't allow you to do back-to-back appointments, so if you're thinking that you're actually gonna be here until 3 o'clock and then go and see another tutor from 3 to 4, not gonna happen, so you might as well wait until 3 o'clock, all right? If they're still insistent, then you have to stick to that timeline. If they're giving you a problem with that, you come and get one of us, right? I told most of you during orientations that I've done with you when we first started and whatever, I enjoy the conversations, so, you know, don't take that away from me. Get me so I can actually do it. But the point is that you still owe them the benefit of your time that you're here, but once that time is up, it's up.
okay, so let's say they do take the 15 minutes and they need more time.
They gotta wait 4 hours.
They have to wait 4 hours before they
Absolutely.
can come back. And is there a limit to 3 hours per day?
Yeah, it's basically, you get the 2 appointments for the day and that's it. You know, like, you can make an appointment for another day and that's perfectly fine, but yeah, that's it. We give them the 2. We have to keep it open for other students. This is a campus of 10,000 strong, so.
Okay, I didn't know it was 4 hours.
Yeah, if they, so put it this way, if you have an appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning, that means it ends at 11. Next appointment they can have is at 3.
No exceptions, or it's completely dead?
Only exceptions have to be run through jury.
Okay.
Right? And the students, you know, the ones who are veterans of using this place know exactly what it is. They'll figure that part out.
I've had students tell me that the front desk told them that they can stay like if I start at 2:25, the front desk told them that they can stay until 3:25. So they're lying.
Yeah, they're lying.
Oh,
No, they're absolutely lying.
they lying?
No,
Okay.
of course, absolutely.
Okay, now
There's no one in this office would actually tell them that whatsoever, because one, that's an impossible guarantee to make for a tutor who might only be working until the top of the next hour, who might have appointments, you know, like coming in later on, whatever, and everybody in here knows we work top of the hour to top of the hour, top of the hour to top of the hour, so no one would actually say that. Even if it's someone new working at the front desk never works by themselves. They're never going to be there by themselves, so they're going to be with someone who knows the policy, and they won't get that information. So if they're lying to you to get you to stay with them, for the most part, right? Students are crafty. They're, you know, like, they're smart. They're going to try their best to get whatever they can out of you, regardless of what our rules are and how many times we explain it to them. They're always going to do it.
For a while then. Okay, go
Right?
ahead.
Yeah.
Good question. So about the back-to-back, you have one student and then you finish your appointment, but they need more time, but say like you don't have any more appointments, and it's okay?
Nope.
No?
Nope, not unless you get clearance from jury. Yeah. No.
You're gonna
Listen,
start relying-
we all do it. We've all done it, right? I've done it. I continue to do it, right? Where I work with students well beyond the time that I'm supposed to and whatever, but that's my discretion, right?
Yeah.
It's also your discretion, right? If you do it and it's not disrupting whatever, I don't really care. My point is, Jerry is upset about it, right? That's what you're trying to avoid, right? So it's the thing, it's your discretion. You feel bad for the student, you're just like, oh, I know we can get through this, all right? I'm glad we're working together, you know, fine. I I understand it, but at the same time, you're also taxing yourself, because this job is not easy, right? I mean, especially if you're doing a 3-hour shift and seeing multiple students over the course of that shift, it's draining. You walk out of here, your head's swimming, right? You're reading so many different papers, so many different issues that you're dealing with, and what have you. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy thing to keep doing that over and over and over. Why do you think editors and proofreaders make as much money as they do, right? What you're doing is putting more strain on yourself by giving more of your time all the time, right? You have to come up with a healthy balance for yourself, just like you have to come up with a healthy balance for the student, right? So don't tax yourself like that, over and over and over again, because in the end, you end up paying for it too, right? I mean, you've got your own work to do, right? And if you don't have that mental energy to go take care of what you gotta do later on, the things that got you this job in the first place start to go by the wayside, right? So don't tax yourself to that particular point. None of us are expecting you to do that. It's not an obligation for you to go above and beyond your time and the allotment of brain power, like to help these particular students, right? Especially the ungrateful ones, right? You want to help them either.
I had that experience too, like sometimes some people ask me to help them after hours, but they're not always ungrateful. But so can I tell them respectfully, like you can see someone else?
Yeah, I mean, you
And
kind of have to.
what if they don't want to see someone else?
That's their problem.
Again, if that's becoming a situation, right? Remember what I just said about competitions, right? Becoming a thing. The key of this job is to make sure that you're helping the student to the best of your ability in the time that you're paid to do it, right? Anything you do outside of here, any extra time you give to them falls on you, right? We're not asking you to do it, so if you do it, then it's on you. There's nothing we can do about that. Absolutely nothing we can do about that. When I first started working here, students knew my shift, so they knew when I was leaving. They weren't here for my actual hours, because like, oh, you're booked. They would wait for me, and back then it was a bench. It wasn't those, like leather seats that you see outside now. It's not as fancy as that. And they would, sit out there and be like, oh, good, like I figured you're getting off, about now, great, awesome. And paper and pen in hand, so they made sure I had all the implements I needed. And they're just like, where are you headed right now? I can walk with you. Like, no, you can't. There's absolutely no way. Absolutely not. That's what people do. Like they will try to get as much out of you as possible. During the time that you work and the time that you're paid, that's what you do. There's no paid overtime, you don't make up hours, there's nothing along those lines that will help you in the end. Right? You're just giving more and more of yourself. It's gonna hurt you. Right? So don't, try to get, again, healthy expectations. When they sit down, let them know. All right, let's see what we can do in the hour we have, right? Keep reinforcing that. You get to the halfway point, you're like, all right, well, we're about halfway, like through the hour. Keep reminding them about this concept of time and get them out. Right. This is also incredibly important for those of you who might work in the evening, especially the final hour, like 5 to 6 or 7 to 8 and whatever, because one of the reasons I don't do evenings anymore is because of you people. Right? I love you. However, this whole, like I need to help everybody up until 7:05 and 7:10 and 7:15 when it's supposed to be closed or whatever the case may be, keeps me away from Monday Night Football. So in the fall semester, I basically hate all of you. Right? That's what you evening, right? It just drives me insane. But that being said, you got to think about the master tutors who are actually here as well, because they're literally closing at 8 o'clock. And it's not a matter of they just want to go home. Security has to lock this place up at a certain time. They have the times posted. If we call later than expected, Jerry ends up getting an email being like, why is the center being closed later? We never got rules, like any rule changes that the center is going to be open later. Simple things like that, and the things that you're thinking, like, okay, I'm helping, I'm doing a great thing for this particular student, and yes, you are. But there's a ripple effect in certain cases, because why is the center not closed? Jerry gets a call at home, which means I got to call on my cell phone. Why is this center not closed? William gets a call, or Matt gets a call, whatever the case may be, right? That's a tiny thing. But, same thing, right? 8 o'clock, it's already late. Nobody wants to be here anymore, right? I mean, granted, some of you probably have like evening classes or whatever, but nobody wants to be here, right? Wrap it up. Same thing goes for your sessions, like your common hours, right? If you're running into the next hour, you're taking up crucial space, right? You've seen what it's like on a Tuesday and a Thursday from 12:15 to 2:15, right? That's when most students do not have classes. That's when most students are here for group subjects like math and economics and whatever else. So the more space you're taking up by running into the next hour means there's a writing tutor that's standing up trying to find space to sit down and work with his or her student. So these are all things to be cognizant of. It's not just about you, but it's what you're doing to affect somebody else. right? Does that make sense? Any other questions about that? Anybody else having like any nightmare sessions or whatever this semester? Any problems? Students pissing you off? Yeah. So the students have actually been good.
At this job, yes. At this job, yes. At my other job, I have, because there's basically no structure like there is here. I have a student at BMCC doing the same thing, but I'm the only one in that particular department. So I have a student who's working on a transfer application, and he's emailing me outside. I answered the email once saying like I don't have time to like go over your stuff, like to give you feedback. You need to be here in person. Keeps on emailing me, so I just don't respond to him.
I have
We're
one
not gonna
simple
go.
question. Why did you give me your email?
That was something that he caught me, and that was my mistake because like he had to get his assignment on the computer that I was using.
Alright. See, but that actually brings up a very important point, right?
Yes.
Share your personal information with students, right? Don't give it away. Now listen, whatever. You guys want a private tutor outside of here? Charge whatever you want to
Your
charge.
discretion.
That's great. Do whatever you want. Don't let it affect you. Nobody in here can know about it, right? Don't discuss it in here. Don't arrange prices in here. Don't set up appointments in here. Whatever. Do it all outside, right? That case, share your information however you feel fit. That's fine. We don't control that, nor can we back you up on that if something goes wrong. All right, so you're taking that risk. That being said, there are many students who will let me know, like, oh, I don't think I can actually, I don't have the time, I work at this time, and your hours don't really work for me. This would actually I have to take the time off of work today. They give you a whole sob story, and you know what it's leading up to, and you're just like, can you just get to the point where it's letting me know? They'll ask you for your email, they'll ask you for phone numbers, they'll ask them to meet outside of here, you know, like, can we go to the library cafe? Can we go to the library? Right? They do it to the math tutors all the time, and they do it to the writing tutors as well. Again, if you make that decision to do it, it falls on you. You're not obligated to do that, any stretch of the imagination. So, you should be saying no. You should not be sharing your personal information, right? So, as Chris just said, his mistake, right? Don't ever do that. Unless, again, like I said, when a lot of money in your pocket, I'm not gonna stand in your way, just don't let me know about it. Yeah, any questions about that? Any other issues, circumstances that are popping up? I'm asking these questions here because this is the forum that you have to get your complaints out, right? Where you get to complain, you can whine as much as you want, right? You still got half an hour, you know what to do all of that, you know.
This didn't happen this semester, but last semester, I was helping a student with like an online test, and I didn't want to try to give her the answer, like when she was asking the question, and I didn't want to get too much away. She's like, you're supposed to be experienced.
Yeah, here's the thing. The moment that the word test or exam or quiz or whatever is thrown out there, and you know that it is that, you end the session, right? We're not here to help students take exams, even if it's a written exam, even if there's an essay portion to the exam or whatever. Nope, absolutely not, right? So in the future, the way to handle that is to end the session. Come and get one of us and let us know, you know, like, oh, this person's trying to get help with like a Blackboard exam or whatever the case may be. Nope, done, end the session, right? Because anything that that student does with your input, you can see where that would lead, right? Where the problem actually lies. So, no, absolutely not. And that's not just for writing tutors, that's for all tutors, right? We have an economics professor who every semester sends us a list of questions that will be on the exam so that if students actually come in asking for help on the take-home exam, we know fully well what to tell them. We forward it to the economics tutors, and they know that they can't work in these particular things. For you guys, that the equivalent of that is the English 1010 exit exam. Right? The moment they get that first article, we get a general idea of what it is because many of the other tutors here are actually adjunct faculty members, so they know exactly what the 1010 exam is going to be. Give me a little bit of a heads up. That way, when students start coming in looking for help on that particular exam, we know that we can't hook them with it. Yeah.
So to that question too, I haven't had this situation yet, but I can like kind of just perceive maybe it possibly happening, maybe it has for some of you guys. Like if someone, because they're not necessarily required to bring like prompts in. If they just brought me, like it's around finals time or something, it's like, oh, and they don't tell me like, oh, this is my final, this is my exam. Like, I have this paper, I need to like read this article and write a paper. Could you help me like, you know, organize it or
Like
could you
this
help me do
paper,
this or that? And it's like
an
all for
article.
like as a tutor, like all I know is, oh, okay, this is a reading assignment, journal, whatever. Like I don't know it's an exam.
Well, you know, we are
What?
paying you to be clairvoyant, right? You know that, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to know that, right?
Okay.
Obviously, I'm kidding. So one of the tricks, you know, when I first started here, one of the tricks that a lot of English 1010 students, you know, like had, because all of the first article that's given for the English 1010 exam tends to be a humanities-based topic. So they would, you know, pretend that the topic was given to them by their sociology professor, or given to them by their philosophy professor, or political science professor, right? It's just like, English 1010, what are you talking about? I'm not even taking that this semester. No, this is my sociology class, right? But again, number one, the packet itself is an official copy. So you can tell when it's actually been photocopied onto something else, you can actually see it. So they get even smarter. They, you know, cross out the title, you know, like, and make sure that they obscure it as much as possible, and whatever else. But because we know what the topic is, we also have a general idea of the contents of the actual article as well. So at that particular point, if you're, you know, like antennas going up a little bit, but you're just like, I don't know what to do, ask one of us, and we'll let you know whether or not that's something you should or should not be covering. Did you guys all sign the attendance?
Yes.
Yes? No? No? All right, so let's pass that around.
I have a question. Like, so are you going to be telling us what the hours are so that we should be accountable?
Yes,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
yes.
That's
Okay, that sounds like that.
For the English 1010 final exam, the exit exam as they call it.
So,
Once we know, it basically isn't revealed until right after spring breakish. Because it has to, the article is normally given no more than 2 weeks before they take the exam. So we wouldn't have that information until then. And the way that we find out is sort of like dual, the English department and tutors here who happen to be adjunct professors. No, because we never found out what it was last semester, which was, you know, yeah. But normally we get a heads up on what it is, either Rachel tell me or, you know, one of the faculty members will say something, yeah. But the policy for the English 1010 exam is not just about tutors, but no one who is employed by CUNY is allowed to discuss it. So yeah, hopefully it'll be nice and actually tell us what it is. Yep.
So is the issue that when we do get the topic and we do get students coming in with these final papers that we're not supposed to help, or just be weary of how we do?
If you're referring to the 1010, the English 1010 exam, the answer is yes, you're not really allowed to help them with any component of the actual article that they bring into you. However, what you are allowed to do, we have former, you know, like actual practice exams for them to use. So really and truly, you should use the session to start discussing things about, you know, like techniques of how to write a comparison contrast essay, right? Thesis development, you know, organizing your ideas and so forth, right? That's really what you want to stress to them. If you're not interested in receiving that help, bye.
So anything in regards to the content on the paper and also like including grammar, we're not supposed to.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, the closest you can come to talking about the papers if they ask you the definition of like a single word. You know, that's about it. In which case, the easiest thing to do, I'll just stick there right there. That's about it. Right? You don't want to touch it. You don't want to deal with it whatsoever because they're given the article in advance on purpose so that they can prep it. So any advice that you give to them basically becomes your involvement in their exam. Right? If a student comes in and tells you that they are working on like a take-home exam or whatever the case may be, you can't really, you know, like help them where that's concerned. Now, to go back to the original concern, sometimes you don't know that you're working on, you know, a take-home final because it looks like a regular paper. Right? There's nothing, there's no red flag saying whatever, and if that student knows our policy, obviously they're not going to call attention to the fact that it is their final exam, right? Again, this is why we get to come full circle to how the meeting started. You fill out the back of the forms, right? And you indicate exactly what you worked on, topic-wise, whatever the case may be, so at a later date, if a professor ever has a question, we can be like, well, how the hell is my tutor supposed to know this was your final exam, right? There's no way that we were, you know, like, going to know that this was the case, right? Yep.
So like if it's somebody's, they're writing a paper instead of taking something. Okay. Is it the last semester or last student?
It's not, well, let me take that back. What I mean is an exam in the sense of, you know, like you've got a short answer, you've got, you know, whatever it actually is. An essay is an essay, no matter what. And whatever essay you're working on, that part isn't what I'm really referring to, but I'm talking about someone who comes in, like, oh, I have to respond and talk about the book and do quotes and, you know, like whatever else, and say what this means and what have you. More on those things. So like those short answers, clearly you can tell that they're, you know, taking some form of an exam. A paper's a paper. Like, there's not much that you can do where that's concerned. But if there's an actual formal exam component to it, then no.
Okay, because the there were several students that I saw at the end of last semester
Mhm.
who told me that, the paper that they had already written, that they just wanted me to look over for mistakes, like grammatical type mistakes that I'll come up. It was something that they were turning in for a final exam, and it seemed like they were gonna be graded on the content more than the grammar. So
Okay.
they could help them with that.
That's fine, again, as long as it still follows the format of an essay and whatever, that's not where the problem comes in. The problem is somebody telling you, for instance, oh, you need to work on the computer, do you mind? You notice they log into Blackboard and, you know, like whatever else, and you're helping them actually take the exam, that ends up being a problem. An essay, there's no control over that. Like, we can't control whether or not an essay is a final essay or whatever. English 1012, for instance, the final project is your research paper that you're working on for the entirety of the semester. Of course you help the students with that, but I just mean they're actually taking an exam. You sitting down there and helping them understand the content and whatever is out of the question.
If a student has a picture of the assignment prompt on their phone or any info for the assignment on their phone, are they allowed to use it?
There's no problem. We're not all curmudgeons, we hate technology, so it's fine.
It's because one time I was working with a student and she was using her phone for an assignment and one thing happened to us, but she was just like doing it for fun. We didn't get into trouble, but he just let me know like if she was spending on her phone that she shouldn't be getting tutored.
No, I already know who you're talking about. But in terms of the phone, whatever, I mean, they can use it. I mean, somebody came in here last week with their essay written on their phone, and they wanted someone to go over it. And I mean, that tiny iPhone screen, if you lost your mind, there's no way out. That's not happening. But I mean, barring that, I mean, if they're showing you something, like the prompt is on Blackboard, and they don't want to get up to go use a computer, they just pull it up and they show you and whatever. Yeah, sure, that's fine, absolutely. But I mean, again, don't do anything on their phone, don't type anything on their phone. I mean, it goes without saying, same rules that you would have when using a computer with a student, which, as you know, we try to discourage, but you can't often, get away with that because a lot of students are just like, no, I really need to work on a computer. Same rules would apply with a phone, right? Just make sure that you're not making any content changes or anything like that. Make sense? Other question? Yeah. So you guys are having a good semester, huh? That's what you're basically telling me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're telling me in about a month we need another one of these? So that, Oh, 2 weeks? Oh, 2 weeks. Okay.
Stuff hasn't come out yet, they don't have deadlines, but this is due in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that hasn't been happening recently is you guys are telling us the problems that you're having, or at least not telling me. I don't know if you're telling anybody else, but if you're having a problem with a student, with somebody who is being too persistent, whatever the case may be, you gotta let us know. And that can either mean you want to do it confidentially, you can do it right at the Master Tutor desk, you can email, you can whatever it is, you can let us know. Yep.
I had a question. I had a student who had a hearing problem before, this isn't this semester though, and he asked if he could record me, and I said that was okay, but I still felt like I should have asked you guys.
Correct, you should. The thing, again, with recording, that's up to you. If you're comfortable with it, it's perfectly fine. But just make sure that you are confident in everything that you're saying when you're being recorded, because they will hold you to that, and now they have audio evidence of what it is that you just said. So if you tell them something that's incorrect, and they then, get some sort of bad grade because of it or whatever, they're gonna pull it out and be like, well, my tutor said, and you have a problem. Right?
It was a resume, so thankfully.
Oh, I have a question. Like, what if you're trying to explain something to a student and even though you explain it a few times, they still don't understand it?
Well, one of the things that you'll realize is that we don't always work well with everybody, right? A lot of people might not mesh well with the way that you say things or whatever because they need you to hold their hand more, or they need you to be more forceful, or whatever the case may be. In that case, you can always recommend to make an appointment with someone else. Like they can go back to the front desk and make an appointment, maybe with a tutor that they actually have worked with before, maybe with somebody, or in that particular case, you can send them over to us so we can sort of assess what the problem actually is, right? In that case, you should really either send them over to us directly or call us over to sit in on the session. So that way we can be involved in the session and just see where the sort of like processing is getting, you know.
Like having you sit in while I'm working.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of what we're here for, right? We're kind of here to be supportive in the sense of if you're having a problem with something and you can't handle the session by yourself, it's not a knock on you that you can't do it. It's actually a boon if you tell us, right? Because you're helping the student as much as you possibly can, right? There are going to be times that I might not have the answer, but Matt does, or William does, or whatever the case may be. And we just pool our collective knowledge. Or your fellow tutor sitting next to you, you know, like that might be able to help. You know, if you notice that person hasn't had a student in a little bit and whatever, right? We should all be able to be friendly here, lean over, be like, hey, how would you explain this? Because I'm trying and it's not really working, right? So you can either send a student over to us, you can call us over to be a part of the session, or ask one of your colleagues.
I want to make one suggestion as something that's worked for me when I'm trying to explain something. This works really well when it's like English second language, having trouble with grammar, but it also can work for other stuff. If you just explain to someone, okay, this is the rule for this, and it always has to be this way, and you explain that over and over again, and if they don't get it, they need to understand sometimes why. Especially if they come from a language that doesn't have something that we do. I've had to, you know, like, the most, yeah, everybody knows how to, you have to explain articles to Russians a lot, so that's mainly what I'm thinking of right now. They really get it if you can explain to them why we have articles and like what would happen if we didn't, and you know, like why we need them, and you know, bring up a lot of examples from like, imagine you were trying to tell someone, you know, this, and then so why a rule is oftentimes the one thing that they need in order to wrap their head around something, and it's also true for non-grammar stuff, like the rules of, you know, structuring an argument or something. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you need to, in order to really get something to click, you have to explain what to do, but also how to do it, but also why, and then they'll really get it.
Any of you have the privilege of working whenever David, our math tutor, is tutoring for students?
Yesterday,
Take the David approach.
I met him yesterday.
Take the David approach, right? If you want to learn math, you go to David. Why? Because he doesn't just tell you what the answer is. He doesn't just show you a bunch of formulas. He doesn't just show you the application, but he goes into why. And if you give him enough time, he'll give you the history of math. Right? He'll tell you exactly where the plus sign came from. Right?
Wow.
The point is that his approach works well for students who are particularly struggling to grasp things because he gives them the 3D approach, you know, so like you can see every angle, angle, that works, math, right? But the point is that in a lot of cases, and here's the thing, you might not know the answer, right? You might not know why. You might just have an instinct for it, as in, I know I can't write my sentence this way. What's the rule again? I got nothing, right? Again, you have resources all around you, right? Human resources, and you also have a ton of grammatical textbooks up there, right? It can be as simple as, what's it called when you do this in a sentence and whatever? I tell you what it is, go look in the book, and you can model it for the student because now there'll be examples for them to see other sentences. Because a lot of times when you're in a spot, it's hard for me to come up with like a grammatically incorrect sentence, like on the spot, to model it for the student, be like, let's come up with one that's just like this one. I'm like, well, that doesn't really make any sense because it's just gonna look like the one we just corrected. All right. You have grammatical textbooks that give you great examples of what to do. And we can pull them for you, we can find whatever it is that you need and so forth. But again, what David is saying and what that David does is a good combination, right? Because you can basically just give them this full idea. And when they walk out of here, even if they don't remember exactly how to fix the sentence or whatever, it's going to be in the back of their mind. And the next time you see them, you get to reinforce it. And now they actually learn it, and they'll remember it, hopefully. Right? Yep.
I don't know if a lot of people do this, but I try to give them something visual. I'll even diagram sentences with people. And it just kind of helps them to wrap around, to actually get it into their head if they can see it, because sometimes when you're learning a new language, you get really overwhelmed really easily, there's only so much you can take. So, if you give them another way to take it in.
Absolutely. The different inputs, or, how they actually learn. Yeah. One of the things we talk about with students who may have disabilities, for instance, that come in for services, whether they're visually impaired or there's an audio problem, whatever it is. One of the things that we always stress is that you have to figure out how that student learns and then adapt your style to how they learn. Well, that's not just true for students with disabilities, that's true for everybody, right? You have to figure out a way to adapt what you're saying. You can easily tell when somebody's glazed over, right? They're looking at you, they're nodding along, they're like, oh, I totally get it, yeah, okay, just correct my paper, right? Just this particular point I've mentally checked out, right? You can tell, right? And that's the whole point, it's supposed to be collaborative. So you should be able to tell, you should be looking at them, you should be making eye contact and figuring out, be like, you didn't get a word of what I just said, right? All right, let's try this, right? And you go again, and you go again. At a certain point, though, you will exhaust all the possibilities, or a finite number of possibilities for most of the questions you're going to get. So, if that's the case, it might be they need not a different approach, but a different voice, right? I've had students, and sometimes it could be cultural, right? A lot of students are uncomfortable, a female student might be uncomfortable working with a male tutor, and a male male student might be uncomfortable working with a female tutor. Sometimes the reasons are legitimate, sometimes they're bullshit, French. But the point is that there are things that might be putting up a block that you're not really seeing. So sometimes just an extra approach. That's why I say, look at your colleague and be like, can you help me explain this? They're not getting it from me. I think I've run out of all the ways that I can think of and whatever. The person next to you might say exactly what you just said, but for some reason, a different voice might help it translate better to that particular student. So use the resources you have around you, including us, right? And we'll figure it out together. Right? And then there's just that student that you really can't do anything for because they want you to do all the work for them. Which point, now you have two voices. So it's not just me, right? This person's just being lazy and they want me to do the work. Great, you